the Furious Five, the Fantastic Five, the whatever name you would like to apply to yourselves for this evening. So, week 3. First thing I just want to remind everybody of is that we are not meeting on campus next week. And we're not even meeting, I shouldn't even say meeting, we're not going to do like an online WebEx or something like that. What I will do, hopefully by, say, Wednesday, so I'll try to be a little ahead of the curve, is strictly through the Moodle. I'll just post whatever it is you need to work on next week. The main thing is probably going to be, our main focus tonight is going to be on graphic design. I'm not going to have you create any graphic stuff over the course of this week to next week, but probably that week following, the main focus will be to actually put the principles we're learning about tonight into practice and actually create some graphics. They will be graphics that you're using in your Moodle, so it's all tied together. It's not just going to be sort of random graphic things. They will be things that you're creating so that you can put them on your Moodle to support your instructional design, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll try to have it available, say, Wednesday, and then you'll obviously have until the following Thursday to do that. And there will probably be another PLN post next week, and possibly something else related to our instructional design or whatnot. But so that's next week's plan. So you don't have to come here next week. Next week we'll be meeting with teachers. Not with teachers. We will be meeting with parents who come to see us, the teachers, at our class, at our school. All right, so before we get into a lot of this stuff, and this looks like a lot more than it is, a bunch of this stuff is kind of all balled together into one larger activity. But questions on the first couple of weeks, questions on work that needed to be completed or things like that? Yes?
So the Moodle cloud that we're creating, do we have to use that in our own classrooms?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, it would be nice. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you're going to go through this work to create all this content and stuff, and wouldn't it be nice to actually use it? But no, it's not. The expectation is not. I mean, I know some schools won't let you use stuff like that. Like they want you to stay with whatever software that school is using or things like that. So it's more along the lines of, model it after something that you would use in your classroom. Chances are good that some of the materials that you're creating, even if you don't use Moodle, you will then have those materials. I mean, if we're doing videos or we're doing podcasts or we're doing graphics or handouts, those, if you're targeting something you do in your class, then you can at least use those materials if you want, and then that's not just extra effort.
Okay, so it's like, it sounds good in theory, but I don't think with first graders.
Right, and I saw, I think in one of your posts, sort of the comment about that of like, and honestly, at that level, a Moodle would probably, kind of like what you said, would be more like the teacher uses the Moodle to organize their material that then they show the students. It's not so much that the students would be interacting directly with the Moodle.
Right.
But no, it's not. It's if you can use it, or you can use the materials, or you can even use the plan that you're coming up with in your classroom, then great, because then it's really practical and you're putting all that work to use.
Okay.
All right. Other questions? Nothing at all. Wow, I must be doing a really good job of explaining everything. Or everyone's just tired and they just like, it'll roll off. All right. Well, so tonight, there's sort of 3 main activities tonight. One of them is going to be relatively brief. One of them is going to be a little bit more involved, and then the third one is going to be the main thing tonight. So, and they're actually not going to go in this order. I sort of rethought how I want to do this. We're actually going to start by talking about the technology integration plans. That's kind of the one major project in this course that we haven't really addressed yet. We've got the PLNs underway. The forum posts are underway. The Moodle is underway. So it's the TIP is really the last thing that we haven't talked about. We're not going to spend a ton of time on tonight because one of your assignments for next week is going to basically be to go out and look at other schools' TIPs, locate TIPs from other schools, take a look at them, kind of analyze them, start to get a sense of what a TIP looks like, what kinds of things are included in it, what sorts of things you should be considering. And then out of that, kind of coming up with at least a basic idea of what you would like to target with your TIP. So we're not going to do a lot of discussion with it tonight until you've had a chance to do some exploration and see what they're about. So we'll start with that, and then we're going to follow up on the chapter that I'd given you last week on segmentation and pre-training, and talk a little bit about that, sort of what you came away from that chapter with. And then we're going to talk about how that's going to apply to your Moodle projects, and that's going to be part of an assignment for next week, sort of the next part of your instructional design plan, your ADDIE plan for your Moodle is going to be addressing how you're going to incorporate segmentation and pre-training into your Moodle. So we'll talk about that. And then really the rest of everything up here is all about graphic design. And my goal to go back to the first week is less about teaching you a specific piece of software and more about teaching you some underlying principles that regardless of what software you're using are going to hold true. And you're going to be able to keep them in mind and apply them no matter what software you're actually using to create a graphic design. So we're going to be talking about this thing, I love saying it, the Gestalt principles, the Gestalt laws of graphic design and what that means and how it applies to instructional materials and so on. So that's really going to be, a lot of this stuff is all going to be part of that. All right? So let's start with the TIP, the Technology Integration Plan. So this, as I said, this is sort of the fourth of the four major projects or grades for this class. And as I just sort of got done saying, the goal for this week is simply to give you a chance to do some exploration on your own of what a TIP looks like, what sorts of things can a TIP cover, what things are in a TIP. And then once you've had that exposure and that background, then we'll have a chance to talk about it and actually then start to structure our own TIPs based off of what you saw. So the actual assignment, which is posted in Moodle as an assignment, is you're going to do this in Word or honestly whatever word processor you like to use, but Word is probably the best one. I want you to find at least 3 existing technology integration plans from a school or a district. They're super easy. When I started doing this, a year ago in this class, I was a little worried about how easy. And I went on and I just did a search, technology integration plan school, and I got like thousands of hits back. So a lot of school districts, because a lot of these plans are sort of at the district level, the school board level, a lot of them get published. A lot of them, there are companies that get hired by a school district to come in and develop a technology integration plan for the district, especially if they're looking at larger initiatives like a one-to-one initiative or something like that. So it's pretty easy to find them. And there's a lot out there, and they're going to be at all different levels, from a full district to a single school, to a grade level, to a subject level. So you can kind of look around and see what seems to stick out to you. So you're going to find, I say at least 3. 3 is fine. That's going to be plenty. If your school has one, then by all means feel free to use that too, because then that'll give you a real close connection and allow you to see, well, this plan, maybe you don't even know your school district has one and they're implementing one and you're not even aware of it. So feel free if your district has one, and so on. So then what you're going to do in that Word document is, the first thing is just to put in links to those plans. Just put in the hyperlinks so that you don't have to copy and paste the whole plan in there, because a lot of them are 20, 30 pages long. So just put a link to wherever you found the technology integration plan. And with each link, just give a brief description, 1 or 2 sentences. This school district in Montana has a technology integration plan that covers a one-to-one initiative or something like that. So that's sort of part 1. Just find them, look them over, and then make sure that your document has the links and a little brief description. Then for each of the TIPs, you're going to go into a little more depth, 1 to 2 paragraphs per TIP. You don't need to detail every element in every plan, but look at the big picture. So what is the target of this TIP? What kinds of information do you find? A lot of times it's broken up into sections. So do you start to see, what sections are they covering? What sorts of topics are they looking at? What are the goals of the plan? What's the basic demographics of the population? Is this an urban school district, a rural school district? Is it targeted towards elementary kids? Is it targeted towards high school kids? Just sort of generally there. Looking through it, are there elements you think the plan addresses particularly well? Are there things you think are missing? And this is along the lines, or the goal of this is to get you start to thinking about your own technology integration plan. So if you look through a plan and you see that they've organized something particularly well, or they've really covered a topic in a way that you think is really useful, you might want to make note of that so that then you can kind of come back and use that as a model in your own plan. Or if looking through it as an impartial observer, you're left going, well, they didn't really talk about, or how are they going to plan to, and you think there's something missing, then make note of that as well, because then that may be something you want to make sure you address in your own plan. So for each TIP, 1 to 2 paragraphs, just a little bit more in depth. Then another 1 or 2 paragraphs to summarize the stuff that you see that's common across all the TIPs. Having looked at several of them, what sorts of things do you see are sort of common across TIPs? They're obviously not going to all be identical. There's not one standardized form that people use for integration plans, but you will tend to see the same types of things being addressed. So kind of start to build your own summary or outline of what a typical TIP might have in it. And then having looked at these, the final thing is to think about what your focus or your topic is going to be for your technology integration plan. Now, you're probably going to be looking at a lot of very big plans, things that cover an entire school district and maybe will take several years to implement. For the purposes of this course and the amount of time we have and the amount of work that we've got to cover, don't aim for those kinds of targets, right? This should be more maybe at like the department level or at a grade level. So if there's a piece of software or a particular piece of hardware that you would like to come up with a plan for integrating into the classroom, kind of think along those lines so that you're not digging this enormous hole that you're going to have to fill in with your plan. So you'll probably be looking at a lot of very broad, big-scale plans. You're going to be scaling that down and finding a topic that you can address. And again, if it can be something as practical as possible, then all the better. Maybe you don't really have a say in your school's technology plans. However, imagine that you are, or imagine that you're the department chair for your department, and there's something you've come across that you think is really neat and you would like to integrate into your classrooms. So kind of think along those lines, something that's at that level as opposed to at a full school level or a full district level. I have had a couple people in the past address things at a school level, but those people, some of them were O92 people, so they were people who were already on the track to being principals and kind of school leaders, and they were already involved in their school's leadership. So they kind of already had access to that level of planning at their schools. But I think for most of us in here, kind of looking at a smaller level is going to be better. So in summary, this document you're going to submit is going to have the links and just the brief labels for the 3 existing TIPs that you're going to use for your research. Then a total of 3 to 6 paragraphs analyzing each plan. That's 1 to 2 paragraphs per plan. Then a 1 to 2 paragraph summary of the commonalities that you found across the plans. And then, one more paragraph that just kind of lays out the subject, what you think your subject is going to be. You don't need to fill in any of the content or any of the details of the plan. Just think about what you would like to incorporate. All right, this year in our department at our school, we're incorporating a new software learning management system called Music First. So that kind of a thing, like how am I going to incorporate this? What kind of training and so on. All right. I do give you, just for my own sanity, just a naming convention for the document. So last name, first initial, and then TIP phase 1. That's just because the way that these get graded, they get downloaded to my computer. And then once they're downloaded, I don't necessarily know who wrote it unless your name is in the title. So if you can just name them that way, that'll be easier for me. And then the actual assignment, which is what we're looking at, is, well, I'm a teacher, so it's looking different. But on yours, it'll give you the option to attach a document and then submit. And that's really all you have to do. So you're just going to create the Word document, do the research, save it, and then upload it to the assignment, and that's that, okay? So it's not really about your technology integration plan yet, but it's kind of setting the stage, getting you looking at what they look like. If you've never looked at one before or know what it does, this will give you a good idea or some ideas of what kinds of things these cover and why they're important and why we are incorporating them into this course on educational technology. All right. So I set the due date for obviously a week from tonight, but it's not going to not let you submit late. So again, don't worry too much about that, although I do encourage you to get things in on time just so you're not doubling up on work for yourself. All right, so any questions on that? Is that pretty clear? Yes. Nice thing about having 5 people in the class, it's real easy to get like all 5 nods of the heads, and then I'm like, okay, we're good to go. All right, and if questions come up, especially since I won't see you in person next week, as always, feel free to get in touch with me if you need something clarified or whatever. But this particular activity has run pretty well in the past, so I think it should be just fine with you folks. All right, so there we go. There's already thing 1 from the night, is our technology integration plans. So thing number 2 is I want to follow up with the chapter from last week on segmentation and pre-training. By the way, that chapter is taken from a larger textbook that's called, now I'm totally blanking on what it's called. Well, it's in the chapter, but it's kind of the handbook for educational technology. We don't require it for this course, but a lot of the other courses in the EdTech Master's program, it's sort of the textbook that we draw from. This is actually, this is an older edition, and it is actually available on the web for free. So I didn't plagiarize this or anything. So you can actually find, I think this is the 3rd edition, and I think now they've got the 4th or the 5th edition out, although they're very similar. They just update a few things. But the theory is good. So if you're interested in looking more in depth into instructional technology, this would be a useful book to add to your library. But yeah, so I want to start by giving you guys a chance to kind of talk a little bit about what your takeaways were from the chapter and a little bit about how you think it would apply either in your classroom or to the Moodle project that we're working on. And I thought, although this was before we had only 5 of us, but I think we can still do this, to give you guys a chance just to kind of talk informally in smaller groups first, and then kind of share out what sorts of things you found. So I'm sort of looking for 3 things in your groups. Talk about takeaways. So what did you kind of remember from the chapter? What were the big ideas? Number 2, how would those concepts apply in your classroom? How could you see using segmentation and pre-training? And you might already. I mean, these are not new concepts. So you may already be using them in your classroom. So you could talk a little bit about, oh, well, I already do this because I do this for this particular assignment. And then maybe try to project a little bit, and this is really kind of where we're going with this, how would these 2 principles apply to the Moodle project that you're creating, segmentation and pre-training, and how do you think they might incorporate, or how would they affect how you would be structuring your Moodle projects, all right? So maybe just to keep things easy for now, why don't the three of you can kind of circle up back there and have a little discussion, and the two of you over here can have a little discussion. So again, takeaways, sort of big ideas from the chapter, how you would use it in your classroom or how you are using it in your classroom, and how you think it might apply to the Moodle project or similar types of projects like that. So I don't know, take 5-10 minutes, something like that. I'll when you look bored, we'll move on. Or when I start hearing people talk about what they're making for dinner tomorrow night, or